The photograph slipped from the billionaire's wallet like a secret it had kept for far too long. It landed face up on the floor of the upscale restaurant where the lights were always soft, the music always jazzy, and the guests never had to check the price before ordering. The young waitress bent down to pick it up, expecting it to be a credit card or receipt. But the moment her fingers touched the paper and her eyes scanned the face in the picture, her entire world froze. It was her mother. Not a woman who looked like her, not someone who resembled her a little. It was her mother. Same smile, same dimples, same golden locket she never took off. The waitress, Chloe, had seen that exact photo in an old family album. It was her mom's high school graduation picture, the one Chloe's grandma used to keep in a silver frame by the kitchen window. But what was her mother's photo doing in Mr. David Whitmore's wallet? David Whitmore, the man with private jets, luxury hotels across 3 continents, and an ego the size of a small country. The man known for shaking hands with presidents and smiling on magazine covers. A man who surely had never stepped foot in Chloe's dusty hometown, let alone known her mother. Her hands shook. Her heart pounded. She looked up at him. He was watching her carefully. Not confused. Not curious. No, he looked like he knew. "Katie," he said softly, using her mother's name. And just like that, the tray of sparkling water Chloe had been holding tipped sideways and crashed to the floor, shattering glass in silence. Everyone in the restaurant turned toward the sound. But all Chloe could do was stare at the photo in her hand and the billionaire sitting in front of her, and ask herself one terrifying question. How does this man know my mother? 2 weeks earlier, Chloe had been late for her shift at the Oak Room, the fancy Manhattan restaurant where the salt alone cost more than her week's rent. She lived in a cramped walk-up in Queens with her best friend Maya and worked double shifts almost every day to keep up with bills and her community college tuition. Chloe had dreams, big ones. She wanted to be a pediatric nurse. Her mom had always said, "Kindness is a light you carry with you." And Chloe took that to heart. She always smiled, always helped, even when her feet ached and her tips were small. That morning had started badly. Her alarm didn't go off. The subway stalled. It rained. Hard. She showed up soaked, with coffee spilled on her sleeve and her apron wrinkled. Her manager, Lisa, gave her that look, the one that said she was one mistake away from being replaced by someone prettier, peppier, and richer. But Chloe apologized, tied her frizzy ponytail tighter, and got to work. By evening, her mood had lifted a bit. A kind older couple had tipped her $50 for making them laugh. A teenage boy had left her a doodle of a unicorn on a napkin with "You're nice" scribbled underneath. These little things kept her going. She loved people, loved seeing their smiles, hearing their stories. She believed every person had something to teach her. That night, the restaurant buzzed more than usual. A VIP table was booked under a fake name, which always meant someone powerful was coming in, maybe a celebrity or politician. Lisa told Chloe to behave like a statue with better posture. When the man arrived, he wore a navy suit, no tie. His hair was silver, thick, perfectly styled. He had that kind of confidence that made you think the whole world belonged to him, and he just let the rest of us borrow it. Chloe recognized him instantly. David Whitmore, billionaire hotel tycoon, tech investor, one of the top 20 richest men in the country, and he had booked a table for one. She approached carefully, greeting him like any other guest, though her hands slightly trembled. He smiled, but his eyes were sharp, like they were scanning her face. "Evening, sir. Can I get you started with anything to drink?" He didn't look at the menu. "Sparkling water. No lemon." "Yes, sir. Right away." She spun around, heart racing. Why did he stare at her like that? She brought his drink, took his order, filet mignon, rare, and tried not to flinch every time he glanced at her. Something about him made her uneasy. Not in a dangerous way, more like he was watching her for a reason. Over the next hour, he barely touched his food. When she came to clear his plate, he finally spoke again. "Your name is Chloe, right?" She blinked. "Yes, sir. Chloe Bennett." His eyes stayed on hers. "Bennett." He said it like it tasted familiar. "Your mother's name?" Her heart thudded. "Katie Bennett. She passed away 8 years ago." He didn't react. No gasp, no widened eyes. Just a quiet nod. "I knew a Katie Bennett once," he said softly. "A long time ago. Before Chloe could ask anything, the check was paid. In cash, and he stood to leave. That's when it happened." His wallet slipped out of his coat pocket, landed on the edge of the table, and flipped open as it fell to the floor. And there it was. The photograph. Her mother. Young. Smiling. Alive. Chloe's brain scrambled. Her fingers went numb. She picked it up, breath caught in her throat. He didn't try to take it back. Instead, he looked at her with something between sadness and hope. "Katie," he said, almost like a whisper. Then the tray of glasses slipped, and the world exploded into sound. But in Chloe's ears, there was only silence and the thunder of questions. Who was this man to her mother? Why did he carry her photo? And what secret had just cracked open her ordinary life? Before she could ask, David Whitmore turned and walked away, leaving Chloe standing in the wreckage of broken glass and broken reality. She clutched the photo and ran after him, but he was already gone. The next morning, Chloe sat at the edge of her bed, the photo clutched in her hands like a lifeline. Maya sat beside her, eyes wide. "Are you sure it was her?" Chloe nodded. "I've seen that photo 1,000 times. It's her. But why would he have it?" Chloe swallowed hard. "I don't know." Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. One text. "You need to know the truth. Come to 45 Westbury Lane. Noon." She stared at the message, blood rushing in her ears. It was signed, D.W. Chloe looked at Maya. "Should I go?" Maya didn't hesitate. "Yes, but not alone." Chloe stood, grabbed her coat, and tucked the photo safely in her pocket. She was going to find out who David Whitmore really was, and why her mother's past was hidden in the wallet of a billionaire. But nothing, not her hardest day or wildest dream, could have prepared her for the door that would open next. Behind it was a truth bigger than she'd ever imagined, and a secret that would change everything she thought she knew. Forever. The cab stopped outside a brownstone that didn't fit the billionaire image. It was quiet. Plain. The number 45, Westbury Lane, hung crookedly above the door, as if even the building didn't expect anyone important to visit. Chloe and Maya stepped out of the car, unsure whether this was the right place. No bodyguards. No fancy cars. Just a cracked sidewalk and a rusted mailbox. "You're sure this is it?" Maya asked, hugging her coat. Chloe showed her the message again. Maya frowned. "Billionaires don't live on streets with broken curbs." Chloe took a deep breath and knocked. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the door creaked open. David Whitmore stood there, no suit, no gloss. He wore a sweater and jeans. His hair, still neat, looked softer without the pressure of the spotlight. He seemed smaller somehow. Not in size. In presence. He didn't look like the man who owned hotels in Dubai and New York. He looked like someone who hadn't slept much. "You came," he said quietly. Chloe clutched the photo in her pocket. "You left before I could ask anything." "I know," he said, stepping aside. "Come in." They hesitated, then walked in. The place was warm and smelled faintly like cinnamon and old books. The walls were lined with black and white photos of cities from the 1980s, jazz records, and a few antique clocks ticking in different rhythms. Maya whispered, "This is not what I expected." Chloe stayed silent, her eyes never leaving David. He motioned to a couch. They sat. "I owe you answers," he said, sitting across from them. "But it's not simple." Chloe pulled the photo out and placed it on the table between them. "Start with this," she said. "Why do you have my mother's picture?" David looked at it like it hurt. Like the paper itself was sharp. "I carry it," he said, "because I never stopped thinking about her." Chloe's chest tightened. "I don't understand," she whispered. David leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I met Katie when I was 19. She was 17. It was the summer before I left for college. I was working part-time at a gas station near her family's house in Vermont. She came in one day to buy gum and left with my heart." Chloe blinked. "Vermont." David nodded. "We spent that summer sneaking out, walking by the lake, dreaming about life. She told me she wanted to be a dancer. I told her I wanted to be someone. She never told me any of this," Chloe said quietly. David's eyes turned glassy. "She probably didn't want to. Because I didn't stay." "Why not?" "I got accepted into Stanford. Business school. My dad pushed me hard, said love was a distraction. That if I wanted to build an empire, I had to leave everything behind. Including her." He looked down. "So I did. I left." Chloe felt something twist inside her. "Did you ever come back?" she asked. David paused. "No." The air in the room felt heavy. "She cried when I left," he said, "and I thought I was doing the right thing. That success would make it all make sense. But it didn't." I became everything my father wanted. I got money, power, respect, and I never stopped thinking about the girl who smiled with her whole face and made the world feel like summer. Chloe clenched her jaw. So why now? Why the photo in your wallet all these years later? David met her eyes. Because I never stopped wondering what happened to her. And last year, I started looking. Chloe sat back. She died when I was 15, she said. Breast cancer. She fought hard. Never complained. I didn't know about any of this. She never mentioned you. David looked like he'd been punched in the stomach. I deserve that, he said. Chloe shook her head slowly. No, you don't get to just show up now and act sad. I know. That's why I didn't contact you right away. I wanted to be sure. I didn't know if she had a daughter. I found out your name through old yearbooks, obituaries, and a friend who works in city records. Then I found out where you worked. Chloe stared. You tracked me down? He nodded. I didn't mean to scare you. I didn't want to lose the chance again. A long silence filled the room. Then Maya spoke up, gently. What are you really trying to say, Mr. Whitmore? He turned toward her, then looked back at Chloe. I think I might be your father. The room went silent. Everything slowed. Chloe's ears buzzed. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. No, she said finally. No, that can't be. My mom, she told me my father died in a car accident before I was born. David's face crumpled. I didn't know she had a child. She never told me. I swear. Chloe stood up, fists clenched. You think you can walk into my life and say this like it's a Hallmark movie? You think I'm supposed to cry and hug you and call you dad? I've lived my whole life without knowing who you are, and now you show up out of nowhere with some story about Vermont and summer love. I'll take a DNA test, he interrupted softly. I won't force anything on you. I needed you to know. Maya stood beside Chloe and whispered, let's go. But Chloe wasn't ready to move. She looked down at the photo, then back at him. Tears burned her eyes. You should have come back. I know. She took a shaky breath. I don't know if I believe you, but if you're telling the truth. David nodded. Then I'm sorry for everything. Suddenly, the door behind them slammed open. A man barged in, mid-40s, bald, wearing a leather jacket. His voice thundered through the room. You said you were done with this, Whitmore. David stood up fast. Not now, Owen. The man, Owen, pointed at Chloe. You told me this was buried. That you weren't going to dig her up again. Chloe stepped back, confused. Who is this? David moved to shield her. He's someone I used to trust. Owen laughed bitterly. She doesn't know, does she? Oh, this is rich. She really doesn't know. Chloe's voice cracked. Know what? Owen smiled darkly. About the deal your mom made before she died. David's face turned white. Owen, but it was too late. Owen's next words ripped the floor out from under her. She signed a contract. One that said you could never find her. And never claim your daughter. Chloe's knees buckled. Maya caught her. What are you talking about? Chloe gasped. Owen stepped forward. Ask your father about the $10 million. Ask him why he paid for your mother to disappear. David's eyes were wide. Don't do this, Owen. But Chloe was already backing toward the door. Maya grabbed her hand. Come on, she whispered. Let's go. Now. Chloe's chest was heaving. Nothing made sense anymore. The photo. The memories. The story. The man who said he loved her mother. And the friend who just accused him of paying her off. They burst through the door, hearts pounding. Behind them, David called her name. But Chloe didn't stop. Because the truth was no longer just complicated. It was dangerous. The rain had started again. Chloe and Maya ran down Westbury Lane, their coats flapping in the wind, shoes slapping against the pavement. Neither spoke. Chloe's mind was a hurricane of thoughts, questions, and sharp-edged memories that no longer made sense. Maya hailed another cab, and they both jumped in without a word. Where to? The driver asked. Chloe hesitated, then answered. Anywhere but here. The cab pulled off. Inside the car, silence stretched like a rubber band ready to snap. Maya finally broke it. You okay? Chloe shook her head, wiping rain from her cheeks. She couldn't tell if it was tears or just the storm. $10 million, she whispered. Maya looked over. You don't believe him, do you? That guy? Owen. He just barged in and... Chloe cut in. He knew my name. Knew about the photo. Knew everything. That's not some random guy. And David didn't deny it. Maya? Not really. He just froze. The cab turned left, city lights flickering past like ghosts. I feel like I'm in someone else's life, Chloe said. Like I stepped into a movie halfway through and no one bothered to explain the plot. Maya reached over and gently squeezed her hand. I don't know what's true, but I know this. Whatever's coming next, we'll deal with it together. Like we always do. Chloe gave a small, sad smile. They got out near Bryant Park. The rain had eased up a little, the clouds turning silver as the afternoon stretched on. Chloe sat on a bench under a tree and took out the photo again. She stared at her mother's face. You always told me the truth, she murmured. So why lie about him? She turned the photo over, hoping maybe, just maybe, there'd be a note. But the back was blank. Still, something about the edges caught her eye. She held it to the light. Faint, faded ink had bled through from behind the image, almost invisible unless you knew to look. Chloe squinted. 2 initials. DW. Her breath caught. Her mother had written it. She had known. That wasn't a random yearbook photo or one left behind. Her mother had kept that picture too, likely the same copy. Chloe stood. I need answers, she said aloud. Maya looked up. You want to go back? No, not yet. But I need to know if she ever talked about David to anyone. Someone from the past. Someone from home. You think someone back in Vermont might know? Chloe nodded slowly. Yeah, there has to be someone. Maya hesitated. You haven't been back there in years. I know. Chloe's hometown was a sleepy little place tucked in the folds of green mountains and maple trees. The kind of town that ran on routine, gossip, and blueberry pie. After her mother's funeral, she hadn't looked back. It hurt too much. Her grandma had passed the year after, and there was no one left. At least, no one she thought mattered. But maybe someone did. Chloe booked a bus for the next morning. She didn't want to wait. Maya offered to come, but Chloe knew this was something she had to face alone. The next day, as the bus rolled away from the city and the skyline faded, Chloe pressed her forehead to the cool glass and watched the world blur. 3 hours later, she stepped off in a town that hadn't changed a bit. Same diner, same gas station, same crooked sign for Tilly's Flowers. Her sneakers crunched against gravel as she walked toward the little white house where her mom had grown up. The house was still there, barely. The paint peeled like sunburned skin. The porch sagged. But the wind chimes her grandma loved still hung by the window, and the mailbox still said Bennett. She wasn't sure what she expected, maybe some ghost of a memory, something warm and simple. But instead, a voice startled her. You're Katie's girl, ain't you? Chloe turned to see an older woman standing on the porch across the street, arms crossed, hair in curlers. Yeah, Chloe said. Knew it. You got her eyes. Chloe stepped closer. Did you know her? Know her? Honey, we grew up together. I'm Mrs. Thompson, but call me Vi. Everybody does. Vi motioned for her to come up. Chloe crossed the street and stood by the porch steps. Do you remember a man named David Whitmore? Vi's eyes narrowed. Why you asking about him? Chloe hesitated, then decided to tell the truth. I think he might have been my father. Vi blinked, long and slow. Well, I'll be. Chloe leaned in. So you do remember? Vi nodded. Your mama was sweet on that boy. Real sweet. That summer was like a fairy tale. Fireworks, music, the whole thing. But then he left, and she got real quiet after that. Didn't smile much anymore. Did she ever talk about him? I thought for a second. Not out loud. But one night, I saw her burning letters out back, crying so hard she could barely stand. I asked her what happened. She just said, it's over. He chose his world. Not me. Chloe's heart thudded. What about a contract? She asked. Anything about money? I looked surprised. Now that I never heard. Katie was proud. Even when times were hard, she wouldn't take charity. If she made a deal like that, she didn't tell anyone. Chloe bit her lip. Vi stepped closer. Listen, sweetheart. Whatever she did, I'm sure she did it to protect you. Katie loved you more than anything. That much, I know. Chloe thanked her and left, head spinning again. She walked past the old school, the park where she learned to ride a bike, and finally stopped by the cemetery on the hill. Her mother's grave was there, simple, gray, surrounded by wildflowers. Chloe knelt down, brushing off leaves. I don't know what you were trying to protect me from, she whispered. But I need to know the truth now. I need to. As she stood to leave, something shiny in the grass caught her eye. She knelt again and picked it up. It was a pendant, a tiny locket. She opened it. Inside was a photo of her mother and a man's face. Chloe gasped. It was David, younger, laughing, his arm around her mother's shoulders. They had been in love. There was no doubt. Chloe's phone buzzed in her pocket. Another message from the unknown number. You were never supposed to find the locket. No name. Just that. Chloe's blood went cold. She looked around, heart hammering. Who sent it? Who was watching? Suddenly, her phone rang. Same number. She picked up slowly. Hello. A deep voice answered. You're in danger now, Chloe. Don't trust him. Don't trust anyone. Before she could respond, the line went dead. Behind her, a twig snapped. She turned fast and saw someone standing at the edge of the woods. Watching her, she stepped back, but they took off running. Without thinking, Chloe ran after them, feet flying over dirt and roots, breath coming fast. Then a hand grabbed her from behind and pulled her into the trees. And everything went black. Chloe woke to the sound of wind rustling through trees and the faint chirping of birds overhead. Her head pounded. She blinked slowly, her vision hazy, trying to figure out where she was. The ground beneath her was damp, earthy. Pine needles clung to her jacket. Light filtered through a canopy of trees. They were deep in the woods. But where? How far from the cemetery? From town? She sat up with a groan. Easy, a voice said. She turned fast, heart racing. A young man, probably in his 20s, crouched a few feet away. His clothes were worn, jeans, a hoodie with the sleeves rolled up. His hair was shaggy, and a scar ran just below his left eye. He held his hands up in surrender, like she was a wild animal he didn't want to startle. I'm not here to hurt you, he said. I just couldn't let you run into them. Chloe echoed, her voice hoarse. He nodded. The people watching you. She stared at him, struggling to connect the pieces. You grabbed me. I pulled you away before they saw you find the locket. Her hand flew to her pocket. The locket was still there. Who are you? She demanded. My name's Jonah, he said quietly. And I'm the son of the man your mother was hiding from. Chloe's heart thudded. What? Jonah stood, slowly, brushing off dirt. My father was David's former business partner. Owen. Chloe's breath caught. The man who had stormed into David's house, yelling about secrets and deals. Jonah nodded like he read her thoughts. Yeah, that guy. But he's not who he pretends to be. He wasn't just David's friend. He was your mother's shadow for years. After she left. Why? Jonah gave her a grim smile. Because David didn't pay Katie to disappear. Chloe blinked. What are you talking about? My father forced her to leave, Jonah said. He blackmailed her. Used threats. Told her if she stayed near David, he'd destroy them both. Chloe stared at him, stunned. Why would he do that? Because he was obsessed with taking everything David had. His company, his legacy, and your mom. Chloe took a shaky step backward. You're lying. I'm not. My father has a history with manipulation. He wanted control. David was too focused on your mother to see it. So Owen used it against him. Forced Katie to disappear. Told her David would be ruined if she didn't. Chloe's throat was dry. But the 10 million. Owen said David paid her off. Jonah shook his head. David wired that money to help her, not to buy her silence. She refused to take it. But Owen intercepted the wire, forged documents, and made it look like a payoff. He even wrote the fake contract. Your mother never signed it. Her legs felt like jelly. You expect me to believe that? Jonah knelt, digging into his backpack. He pulled out a manila envelope. I brought this to prove it. Copies of the original letters. Handwriting analysis. Wire transfer logs. All of it. My dad's been keeping records in case anyone tried to expose him. I found them by accident, and when I realized what he'd done, I left. I've been tracking you ever since. Chloe snatched the envelope from him and flipped through the pages. Scans of old letters. Emails. Documents. And a photo. One she hadn't seen before. Her mother and David. Together in the woods. Holding hands. Behind them, a younger Jonah. Maybe 4 or 5 years old. Standing by Owen. He was there. She looked up at him. You knew her? He nodded. A little. She was kind to me. Smiled a lot. But I could tell she was scared when my father came around. She always flinched when he raised his voice. Tears stung Chloe's eyes. I don't know what to believe anymore. Jonah leaned forward. Then believe this. Your mom was protecting you. And David's been looking for you because he never stopped loving her. Owen's the one with something to hide. And if you go back to David now, you need to be ready. For what? For the truth. Before Chloe could answer, her phone buzzed. She checked it. Maya, where are you? I just got a weird call. Some guy said to stay away from you. Said you were in danger. Chloe's fingers trembled. Another buzz. Chloe, call me. Please. She looked at Jonah. I have to go back. He nodded. I'll come with you. If you'll let me. Chloe hesitated, then nodded. Something in his eyes told her he wasn't lying. Together, they hiked back toward the road. As they walked, Jonah filled in more of the missing pieces. How Owen had been trying to buy out David's company for years, using intimidation, dirty investors, and leverage from the past. When David got close to finding Chloe, Owen panicked. That's why he showed up at the house. Why he tried to twist the story. And that message on her phone? It hadn't been a warning. It had been a threat. By the time they reached the edge of town, the sky had gone dark again, clouds hanging heavy like something bad was about to break loose. Chloe called Maya. I'm okay. I'll explain everything soon. Where are you now? Maya asked. Coming back to the city. Good. Because something weird just happened. Chloe's chest tightened. What? Someone came to the apartment. Said they were delivering something from David Whitmore. A letter. But when I opened the envelope, it wasn't a letter. Chloe's voice dropped. Then what was it? Maya hesitated. A picture. Chloe could barely breathe. Of what? Maya swallowed hard. Of your mother. But not from before. It looked recent. Chloe froze. That's not possible. I know, Maya whispered. But Chloe, the photo was dated just 5 months ago. Chloe staggered to a stop. Her voice was barely a whisper. She's alive? The line went silent for a long moment. Then Maya whispered, I think someone's been lying to everyone. The train ride back to Manhattan was a blur. Chloe sat pressed against the window, Jonah beside her, the envelope of documents clutched tightly in her lap, like it might vanish if she let go. The photo Maya described kept replaying in her mind. Her mother alive. Alive? She tried to reason with herself. Maybe it was fake. Maybe it was an old photo dated wrong. But Maya wouldn't make a mistake like that. Chloe trusted her with her life. She looked at Jonah. He was staring straight ahead, his fingers tapping anxiously on his knee. What if she really is alive? She asked softly. Jonah didn't turn. Then everything changes. Chloe's heart thudded. She looked down at her phone again. Maya had forwarded her a picture of the envelope. No return address. Plain white. Inside, a printout of a grainy surveillance image, time-stamped 5 months ago. It showed a woman walking into a hospital in Newark. She looked just like Chloe's mother. Same posture. Same hair. Same locket. Her locket. Chloe's fingers tightened. If this is real, why would she hide from me? Jonah's voice was quiet. Because someone made her believe she had to. Back in the city, Chloe didn't go home right away. She had one more stop to make. She needed to see David again. This time on her terms. The sun had nearly disappeared behind the skyline when they arrived at his penthouse suite. A doorman recognized her and called up. 5 minutes later, the elevator doors opened onto a floor that felt more like a museum than a home. Glass walls, tall plants, everything white and modern. David stood by the window, looking out over the city. His hands were in his pockets. He turned slowly when she stepped in. I wasn't sure you'd come back, he said quietly. I wasn't going to, Chloe replied. David's gaze flicked to Jonah behind her. You brought Owen's son. I brought the truth, Chloe snapped, stepping forward. She tossed the envelope onto the glass table between them. I know what you did for my mom. I know what Owen did to her. And I know she never took your money. David slowly opened the envelope and pulled out the pages. He said nothing as he read. Then a long breath escaped him. His shoulders sagged. I always suspected, he said softly. But I didn't know he had proof. I never saw the contract myself. Owen said Katie wanted no contact, and he made sure I believed it. Chloe's voice cracked. She was scared. She had to run to protect me. David's eyes met hers. And I failed both of you. Jonah stepped forward. My dad's not just covering up secrets. He's still watching her. And if that photo Maya got is real, it means Katie didn't die. It means she's out there. And someone made her stay hidden. David looked like the ground had just dropped beneath him. Then, everything I thought I knew. He sank into a chair, staring at the photo of himself and Katie from years ago. I need to find her, he whispered. I have to. Chloe stepped closer. I need to know why she left me. David flinched. She didn't, Chloe. I promise you. She must have had a reason. I want to believe that, she said. But my whole life, I thought she died. That she was sick. She even looked sick at the end. David looked up sharply. What do you mean? Chloe's voice was low. She got thin. Lost her hair. She said it was chemo. I saw the hospital bills. I believed it. Jonah's face darkened. What if that was part of it? What if Owen faked it all? To make sure you never searched. Chloe couldn't respond. The idea was too big, too cruel. David stood slowly. We need help. If she's alive, someone's been keeping her off the grid. That takes resources. Planning. Chloe's mind was racing. We need someone on the inside. Someone who can trace things back quietly. Owen's watching me now, maybe watching you too. David turned to a small safe in the corner, pressed his fingerprint against the scanner, and retrieved a flash drive. I kept backups. All the encrypted data I could gather when I started doubting Owen. Every transfer. Every wire. Names of shell companies. If he paid someone to fake documents or hospital records, it's in here. Chloe took it with trembling hands. Who can we trust to go through it? David thought for a moment, then picked up his phone. There's one man. Used to work cybersecurity for the government. He owes me a favor. Jonah nodded. Good. We'll need more than favors if Owen figures out we're digging. Just then, David's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Hello. A garbled voice filtered through the speaker. She's running again. David's eyes widened. Who is this? You want to find her? You better move fast. Owen's closing in. Then the line went dead. David stared at the phone, stunned. She's alive, he whispered again. Chloe didn't wait. We need to go to Newark. That hospital from the photo. If she was there 5 months ago, maybe someone remembers her. I'll come too, Jonas said. David shook his head. No. If Owen finds out you're helping us. He already suspects, Jonas said. That message to Maya? It was from one of my dad's burner phones. I recognized the number. He's been watching her. That means we're out of time. Chloe turned to David. We leave tonight. They arrived at the Newark hospital after midnight. The place was quiet, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. The overnight nurse at the desk looked up warily as they approached. Can I help you? David pulled out the printed photo Maya had sent. This woman. Was she here 5 months ago? The nurse leaned in, squinting. That's confidential. Chloe stepped forward, desperate. Please. She's my mother. I thought she died years ago. If she was here, I need to know. The nurse studied her, eyes softening. She did come in, she said. Briefly. Said her name was Kate Willis. Didn't have insurance. Paid cash. Had bruises. Looked like she'd been in a fight. Chloe's breath caught. Where did she go? She stayed a day. Told us not to contact anyone. Then left before discharge. But she left this. The nurse opened a drawer and handed Chloe a folded piece of paper, yellowed from months of waiting. Chloe opened it with trembling fingers. It was a note. If anyone comes asking, tell Chloe I'm sorry. Tell her I had no choice. And if David's still looking for me, tell him to stop. They'll hurt her if he doesn't. Kay. Chloe nearly dropped it. David stepped beside her, his eyes wide with pain. She's still protecting you. Jonah stepped forward. Then we have to stop running. A sound behind them made them all freeze. The glass door at the entrance opened slowly. A man walked in. Trench coat. Cold stare. And a scar on his hand. A mark Jonah had seen all his life. Owen. His eyes scanned the room and landed on Chloe. Well, he said, smiling without warmth. Looks like the family reunion started without me. David stepped forward. You stay away from her. Owen's eyes glittered. I would have, if she hadn't started asking questions. He reached into his coat pocket. Jonah shouted, Get down. And in a flash of motion, everything exploded. Chloe hit the floor just as glass shattered. And Owen fired the gun. The blast rang out like thunder in the hospital's quiet lobby. Glass from the front door rained down as Chloe hit the floor, arms shielding her head, her heart thudding so loud she couldn't hear anything else. A second shot fired, but this time it hit the metal doorframe, sending sparks flying. Stay down, David shouted, throwing a chair in Owen's direction as a distraction. Jonah launched himself forward, tackling his father with a force that surprised even him. They crashed into the tiled floor, Jonah wrestling to keep the gun pointed away. Owen snarled, stronger than he looked, years of calculated cruelty flashing in his eyes. You think you know the truth? Owen growled, punching Jonah hard in the ribs. You know nothing, boy. Chloe scrambled toward the overturned front desk. Her hands found the panic button and slammed it. Somewhere deep in the hospital, an alarm began to sound. Red lights flashed as emergency protocols kicked in. Jonah kneed Owen in the stomach and twisted the gun from his hand, tossing it across the floor. It skidded under a row of chairs. David grabbed Chloe's hand and pulled her to her feet. Come on, we have to move. But Chloe didn't run. Not yet. She turned and saw Jonah bleeding from the corner of his mouth, but still holding Owen down, arm pressed to his father's throat. "Stop fighting," Chloe shouted. "You don't have to be like him." Jonah paused, breathing hard. Owen tried to speak, but all that came out was a dry laugh. "You think he's not like me? He's worse. He just doesn't know it yet." Chloe rushed forward and knelt beside Jonah. Jonah's voice shook. He ruined everything. Everything he touched. David pulled out his phone, dialing 911. "We've got witnesses. Security cameras. He's done." Owen stopped laughing. His eyes shifted toward the far exit door. Then, he headbutted Jonah hard, making him fall back. Owen rolled, grabbed a tray, and threw it through the fire alarm case, smashing the glass. Sprinklers burst from the ceiling, soaking the entire lobby in seconds. Alarms shrieked louder. Confusion. Chaos. Chloe reached for Jonah, who was dazed, his lips split. David yelled, "He's running." Chloe turned and saw Owen vanish through the back hallway, pushing a staff-only door open. David cursed and took off after him. "Wait!" Chloe shouted, but it was too late. Jonah grabbed her wrist. "Let him go. If Owen corners him alone, it could get worse." "But what if he's armed again?" "I'll call the cops. You go after your mom." Chloe blinked through the rain of water from the sprinklers. "What?" Jonah pulled a soaking wet paper from his pocket. It had been tucked in the back of the envelope. "She left a clue," he said, his breath shaky. "There's a second address, handwritten on the back of her hospital note. I missed it until now." Chloe stared at the scrawled line, "Willow Creek, Cabin 9. Jonah explained, "It's an old retreat outside the city. She used to go there, right? You told me she loved hiking, disappearing into nature." Chloe remembered her mom's stories about weekends at the lake, somewhere quiet, peaceful. "You think she's there?" Chloe whispered. "I think it's the last place she felt safe," Jonah said. "And she wanted you to find her." Police sirens wailed in the distance. Jonah helped her up. "Go. What about you?" He smirked, wincing as he stood. "Someone's got to explain all this to the cops. Plus, David might need backup." Chloe hesitated, torn. "Don't wait," Jonah said. "If Owen was willing to shoot here, in public, in a hospital, he's not going to stop until he finds her. You have to get to her first." Chloe nodded, drenched, terrified, but more determined than ever. Willow Creek wasn't on any regular map. Chloe had to ask a cab driver to take her as far as the edge of the state park, then hike the rest of the way herself under the light of a full moon and a borrowed flashlight. She walked through mud and leaves, following the crooked trail signs. The sound of water, a nearby river, filled the air. Fog clung to the ground like it was protecting secrets. Then she saw it. Cabin 9. Wooden. Quiet. Tucked between trees with vines creeping up the sides. A small porch light glowed dimly, flickering like it hadn't been used in years. She stepped onto the porch. Her heartbeat drowned out the chirps of crickets. She knocked once. No answer. She tried again, louder. "Mom." A pause. Then, footsteps inside. The door creaked open. A woman stood there. Pale. Hair pulled back in a loose braid. A face aged by time and pain, but unmistakable. Her mother. Alive. Chloe gasped, her knees nearly giving out. "Katie Bennett?" she whispered, voice trembling. The woman stepped into the light, eyes wide, mouth open as if she'd seen a ghost. "Chloe." And in that instant, the dam broke. Chloe lunged forward, and they collapsed into each other's arms. Her mother sobbed into her shoulder, arms tight, like she would never let go again. "My baby, my beautiful girl. I thought you were dead," Chloe cried. "You let me believe you were dead." Katie pulled back, her face wet with tears. I had to keep you safe." Chloe shook her head, breaking. "Why? What happened? Why this?" Katie looked over her shoulder, nervous, afraid. Then she whispered, "Because if Owen ever found out you were alive, he'd use you. To get to David. He made me disappear once. I couldn't let him take you too." Chloe's mind was reeling. "You knew he was after me?" "I knew it from the moment I saw his face again," Katie said. "He came to me 5 months ago, told me if I ever went near you, you'd vanish, just like I did." A wind rustled the trees outside. Chloe grabbed her mom's hand. "It's over. The truth is coming out. He won't hurt us again." But before Katie could answer, a voice rang out from the trees. "You really thought you could hide forever?" Chloe turned. Owen stepped from the shadows at the edge of the clearing. Wet, muddy, but smiling like the devil himself. and in his hand, another gun. Katie froze. No. Chloe stepped in front of her mother. Owen raised the weapon. Move. Chloe didn't. Last chance, he snarled. No. Chloe whispered. You don't get to scare us anymore. His eyes narrowed. Then both of you go. Suddenly, a spotlight cut through the darkness. Drop the gun, a voice boomed. Multiple beams lit the clearing. Police. Jonah stepped out behind them, flashlight aimed, shirt still soaked from the hospital. I told you I'd be right behind her, he said. Owen spun, but it was too late. The officers rushed forward. He didn't fire this time. He dropped the gun and raised his hands, beaten. Chloe grabbed her mother again, tears falling freely now. It's over, she whispered. He's done. Katie sobbed, shaking. You saved me. You saved us. Jonah approached slowly, his lips split, but smiling. Told you I wasn't like him. Chloe laughed through her tears. Not even close. Behind them, the officers cuffed Owen and read him his rights. Katie looked at her daughter and held her tight. But even as the chaos settled and the danger passed, one question still hung heavy in the air, a question Chloe couldn't shake. If Owen had come back 5 months ago, who helped her mother escape? And why did they want her alive? Because someone else was involved. And Chloe was about to find out that Owen was only the beginning. 3 days had passed since Owen's arrest. The news had spread like wildfire. Billionaire hotel tycoon's partner arrested in shocking extortion plot. Reporters camped outside David's office buildings. Paparazzi trailed Chloe's steps like she was suddenly a celebrity. But none of that mattered. Not compared to the moment Chloe woke up and saw her mother sleeping peacefully on the couch in her apartment. It was real. Her mom was alive. Chloe had her back. They hadn't talked much since the cabin. Too many emotions. Too many pieces to sort. Katie was quiet, jumpy at times, constantly checking the windows. Jonah stayed with them, keeping watch, saying little. He was battling his own demons. And David? He stayed away. I don't want to overwhelm her, he said to Chloe over the phone. She's been running for years. If I'm the reason she ran, I'll wait until she's ready. But Chloe knew something deeper was haunting her mother, something beyond Owen. There was still a missing piece, and she was about to find it. That afternoon, Katie finally broke the silence. I need to tell you something, she said, sitting at the kitchen table, hands wrapped tightly around a mug of tea. Her voice was hoarse, eyes glassy. Chloe sat across from her. Okay. Katie took a deep breath. Owen wasn't the only one keeping me hidden. Chloe frowned. What do you mean? I wasn't just afraid of him. I was afraid of the people he worked with. The ones who paid him to keep me away from David. People who stood to gain everything if David never found out about you. Chloe sat up straighter. Who? Investors. Silent ones. Men in the background. They wanted David distracted, vulnerable. They thought if they kept us apart, they could take more from him. And one of them wasn't just a stranger. Katie's voice cracked. He was family. Chloe's heart sank. What? Katie reached into her bag and pulled out an old letter. It was folded, stained, the ink slightly smudged. She passed it to Chloe. It was from David's brother, Leonard Whitmore. Chloe read the opening lines aloud. Katie, this is the last offer you'll get. Leave him. Disappear. I'll make it worth your while. Think of your daughter's future. David doesn't know what's best for her. He'll ruin everything. Chloe stared at the letter in disbelief. Leonard? But I've never heard his name before. Katie nodded. You wouldn't have. David hasn't spoken to him in over 20 years. He always thought Leonard left the business on his own. But the truth is, Leonard wanted the company, and he was willing to use me to take it. Chloe shook her head. Why didn't you tell David? Because Leonard threatened you, Katie whispered. He knew about the pregnancy before David did. He said if I told him, if I tried to stay, he'd make sure you never saw daylight. Tears spilled down her cheeks. So I ran. Faked the illness. Burned every trace. I thought if I disappeared, you'd be safe. I hated myself every day for it. But I did it for you. Chloe reached across the table, squeezing her mother's trembling hands. You did what you had to do. But we're not running anymore. Katie looked up, broken but relieved. I thought I'd never see you again. You will. Every day? I promise. Just then, the doorbell buzzed. Chloe and Katie both froze. Jonah appeared from the hallway, eyes sharp. You expecting anyone? Chloe shook her head. He moved to the intercom. Who is it? A deep, familiar voice responded. It's David. Katie tensed. Her fingers tightened on the mug. Jonah looked at Chloe. She hesitated, then nodded. Jonah opened the door. David stepped in slowly, wearing a gray coat, looking more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him. His eyes locked onto Katie's. His breath caught in his throat. "Hi," he said softly. Katie didn't speak. She stood up, walked toward him like a woman in a dream, then stopped. "I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered. He nodded. "You didn't." He did. Tears rolled down Katie's cheeks. "I loved you," she said. David stepped forward. "I never stopped." And then, they embraced. Years of silence melted between them. Chloe looked at Jonah, who stood quietly near the door, watching. But even in that tender moment, something gnawed at Chloe. Leonard Whitmore. She hadn't heard his name once from David. Not in all their conversations. And if Leonard had been behind everything, where was he now? That night, Chloe couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, the envelope of documents beside her. Jonah had sent a few more files from David's hard drive, recovered by the cybersecurity expert. Most were financial records. Boring, until she saw one. A video file, dated 10 years ago, labeled L. Whitmore, Confidential. She clicked it. A man appeared on screen, tall, severe, with piercing eyes and a perfectly trimmed beard. Leonard Whitmore. He was in an office. A camera sat on the desk, pointed up at him like a video diary. He began speaking, his voice cold and precise. "If anything happens to me, I want the record to be clear. I never intended to harm Katie Bennett. She was collateral. My concern has always been the company. David's weakness is his heart. Always has been. I tried to warn him. He wouldn't listen." Chloe's heart pounded. Owen agreed to help me. In exchange, I funded his startup and gave him control over several shell accounts. The goal was simple: keep David distracted. Keep the company stable. Remove vulnerabilities. He leaned in closer. And Chloe? The child? She was never part of the plan. But if David were to ever claim her, everything we built could collapse. He paused. So I made sure he never knew. Chloe's eyes burned. The screen went black, and a single line of text appeared. Last known location, Zurich, Switzerland. She sat up. Zurich. He'd fled. Chloe rushed into the living room, where David and Katie were still talking, their voices low and tender. She interrupted them, holding up the tablet. "I found him." David's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Chloe's voice was firm. "Your brother." Katie's hand covered her mouth. David stood, stunned. "He's alive." Chloe nodded. "And he ran. But he left a trail." Jonah stepped in from the hall. "We follow it." Katie looked at her daughter, her eyes wide with fear. "It's not over." Chloe shook her head. "No. But this time, we're not hiding." David picked up the tablet, stared at his brother's face. "We finished this." But as they prepared to move, Chloe's phone buzzed. A text. No number. Just a message. "Don't chase him, or your mother disappears again." Chloe stared at it. And for the first time in her life, she felt the rage of someone who'd had enough. No more secrets. No more fear. This time, they were coming for the truth. The next morning, Chloe stood on the hotel balcony overlooking the city. Wind tugged her hair across her face as she read the message again and again. "Don't chase him, or your mother disappears again." She didn't show her mom. Not yet. She couldn't. Katie had just started smiling again, barely. Chloe couldn't snatch that away with a threat. Not until she understood exactly who had sent the message and what they were really capable of. David joined her quietly, a cup of coffee in hand. He looked tired but grounded, more of a father than a billionaire today. "You didn't sleep," he said. "Neither did you." He handed her the coffee, his expression serious. "We have to go to Zurich." She didn't answer right away. She was still thinking about that text. The way it didn't say "you'll be sorry" or "we'll stop you." It said "your mother disappears again." Again, meaning someone new. Someone had helped hide her mom the first time. And if Leonard Whitmore had gone underground, then someone was still helping him, still watching them. "I'm coming with you," she said finally. David started to protest, but Chloe cut him off. "This is my story too. I'm not sitting out the ending." He nodded, slowly. "Then we go together." Jonah met them in the lobby 20 minutes later. He had a black backpack slung over one shoulder and a burner phone in hand. "I booked the flight under aliases," he said. "Used one of Dad's crypto wallets. He won't track us." "Not for now." "You sure about this?" Chloe asked him. Jonah's mouth twitched into a humorless smile. "I just turned my father in for attempted murder. At this point, tracking down an international fugitive feels like a light Saturday." The flight to Zurich was long and quiet. David worked through most of it, sending encrypted emails to contacts across Europe. Jonah slept off and on, but Chloe sat still, headphones in, staring at the map on the screen. Zurich. That's where Leonard had vanished after resigning from Whitmore Hotels 15 years earlier. David never looked for him. He thought Leonard had just walked away from the business. But the truth was uglier. He'd walked away with a plan. And now, the pieces were fitting together too neatly. Leonard had orchestrated Katie's disappearance. Leonard had silenced David. Leonard had let Chloe grow up fatherless, not by accident, but by design. And Leonard had help. That was the part that kept twisting in her gut. Help from someone still inside Whitmore Industries. Someone close. Zurich was breathtaking, but Chloe barely noticed the cobblestone streets or the snow-dusted rooftops. They stayed in a discreet boutique hotel on the edge of the lake. Jonah and David set up a secure server in the room, scanning the last few files from the old hard drive. And that's when they found it. A bank ledger, hidden beneath 6 layers of encryption. 10 years' worth of payments. To a name Chloe didn't recognize. Geneva Cross. Jonah zoomed in. She's been getting wired 6 figures every quarter. For over a decade. David leaned closer. She used to be my executive assistant. Chloe blinked. That doesn't sound like assistant-level income. David's face hardened. She was loyal. Or I thought she was. Jonah pulled up an old staff photo. A woman with sleek dark hair, sharp cheekbones, and icy eyes. Standing just behind David. She disappeared around the same time your mom did, Jonah said. Official story said she moved to Singapore. Took another job. David looked like he'd been slapped. Leonard told me she'd resigned. Chloe's voice was tight. Because she didn't. She was working for him. Jonah began cross-referencing Geneva Cross's passport logs, credit cards, online activity. She's been in Zurich on and off for years, but never stays more than a few days in one place. Then his fingers stopped typing. She checked into a private clinic 5 days ago. Chloe's heart jumped. Clinic? What? Jonah turned the screen toward them. It was a security photo. Fuzzy, but clear enough. Geneva Cross. And beside her, Leonard Whitmore. Older, gray at the temples, walking with a cane, but unmistakably him. Chloe stared. Where is this clinic? Jonah gave her a grim look. North Zurich. It's high security. Wealthy patients. No press. No questions. Then we go tonight, she said. David nodded. We'll go in quiet. No calls. No lawyers. Jonah glanced toward Chloe. You sure you want to see him? She didn't hesitate. I have to. That night, under cover of mist and streetlight, they reached the clinic. Jonah stayed behind the wheel of a rented car, fingers ready on a laptop with access to the building's power grid. Chloe and David walked through the side entrance, disguised in scrubs. David had called in a favor from a retired investor, one with pull inside the Swiss health system. They got in with temporary IDs and fake credentials. Inside, the hallways were silent. No nurses. No footsteps. Just distant humming of lights. Room 409. That's where he was. They stopped at the door. David looked at Chloe. You ready? She nodded, barely breathing. He opened it. Inside, a man sat by the window, in a high-backed chair, a blanket across his lap. He turned. Leonard Whitmore. His face changed when he saw them, not surprise. Expectation. David, he said softly. And, Chloe. Chloe's knees went weak. You know me, she said. Not a question. Leonard smiled faintly. I've always known you. David stepped forward. You lied to me. Leonard nodded slowly. Yes, I did. Chloe's voice broke. You made my mother run. Leonard's eyes didn't waver. Yes, I did that too. Why? She asked. Why destroy your own family? Leonard didn't answer right away. He looked out the window, the moonlight casting half his face in shadow. Because the company was never supposed to be yours, David, he said at last. It was supposed to be mine. You were the dreamer, the heart. But I was the one who built. I did the work. I got my hands dirty. You stole from me, David growled. I protected the company, Leonard said coldly. Katie made you weak. And when I saw her pregnant, I knew you'd give everything up for her. You were ready to throw it all away for love. You'd let it all crumble. Chloe stepped forward, shaking. You destroyed lives for your ego. Leonard's eyes met hers. And something flickered. Regret. But you're strong, he whispered. Stronger than I expected. Your mother's heart. Your father's fire. He reached under his blanket. David moved fast, grabbing Chloe's arm. But Leonard only pulled out a folder. He placed it on the table. Everything's in there, he said. Bank accounts, names, proof of the others. David stared. Others? Leonard nodded. I wasn't alone. There are still people inside the company. People who don't want the truth out. He coughed, a deep, raw sound. But I'm tired. I'm dying, David. That's why I'm here. Cancer. Terminal. Chloe stared. And what? You want forgiveness? Leonard looked at her, old pain behind his eyes. No, he whispered. I want it to end. He turned to David. I'll sign a full confession. I'll name everyone. Just promise me one thing. David's jaw was clenched. What? Don't destroy them. Just take it all back. David didn't speak. Then finally, he nodded. Chloe opened the folder. Inside were names, transfer logs, correspondence, people still inside Whitmore Industries, powerful people who had known. Suddenly, Jonah's voice came through Chloe's earpiece, urgent. Chloe, you need to leave. Now. Why? She whispered. The clinic's power just spiked. Security cameras are being overridden. Someone else is in the building. David moved toward the door, but Leonard's voice stopped them. It's too late, he said calmly. They're not here for me. Chloe's blood turned cold. Then who? Leonard looked at her, eyes filled with sorrow. They're here for you. And then, the lights went out, and the door behind them exploded inward. The blast knocked Chloe to the ground. Shards of metal and wood rained through the room, and thick smoke filled the air, making it hard to see, harder to breathe. Sirens screamed in the distance, maybe inside the clinic, maybe in her head. Chloe blinked through the dust, coughing, her ears ringing. David lay a few feet away, dazed but conscious, blood dripping from a cut above his eye. Leonard was still in his chair, unmoving. And from the smoke-filled hallway beyond the ruined door, figures emerged. Black-clad, armed, faces covered by masks. Not police, not security, mercenaries. Chloe's instinct screamed, run. But she didn't move, because one of the men stepped forward, gun raised, and pointed it at her. David lunged forward, shielding her with his body. She's not going anywhere. The man didn't blink. She's the target. Jonah's voice crackled through Chloe's earpiece again, sharp and panicked. Chloe, the signal's jammed. I can't get in. Whoever they are, they came in through a private elevator. Not on any maps. Chloe's eyes scanned the room. Smoke, fire, debris. The man in black gestured to another. Take the father. Secure the girl. Two mercenaries stepped forward, grabbing David roughly. No, Chloe screamed, fighting them off. One of them slammed a hand over her mouth. But suddenly, a gunshot. Not from them. From behind. One of the masked men dropped to the ground, a dart in his neck. Then another. Tranquilizer rounds. Chloe twisted her head, confused. More figures appeared in the hallway, opposite direction this time. But these ones moved like ghosts. Tactical. Silent. Another mercenary went down. The smoke shifted just enough for Chloe to make out a symbol on their uniforms. A falcon in flight. Jonah's voice returned in her ear, loud and clear now. Get behind them. Those are ours. David broke free, pulling Chloe toward the back of the room. Go. There's a fire exit behind the medicine cabinet. I remember the layout. This building used to be a safe house. They crashed through the hidden door as tranquilizer shots echoed behind them. Down a narrow staircase, every second a blur. By the time they reached the alley behind the clinic, Jonah was already there with the car, engine running, door open. They jumped in. Chloe turned in her seat, panting. Who were those people? Jonah peeled away from the curb, tires screeching. Not cops. Not private security. They're corporate. Corporate? David asked, breathing heavily. From your board, Jonah snapped. Names from Leonard's files. They knew we were here. That he was talking. Then they didn't come to kill him, Chloe realized. They came to silence us. David's eyes darkened. And now they'll try again. They drove to an underground parking garage Jonah had pre-booked as a safe rendezvous. From there, they were led into a secure elevator by one of Jonah's trusted hacker contacts. A woman named Rhea who wore wire-rimmed glasses and chewed gum like she was born suspicious. They exited into what looked like a tech bunker. Dark walls, humming screens, global maps glowing across the room. You're safe for now, Rhea said, flipping her laptop open. But they'll find you fast if we don't act. What did Leonard give you? Chloe handed over the folder. Names. Transactions. Internal sabotage. He wanted to confess. Rhea scanned the documents, her eyes flickering. This is massive. Chloe, this isn't just corporate corruption. These names. Some of these people are connected to international shell companies, political donors, even arms brokers. Jonah cursed. That's why they want you gone. You're the key witness now. David turned to Rhea. Can we go public? Safely. Not yet, she said. The files alone won't hold in court. But if we get Leonard to make a statement, a recorded one, and link these names directly to the criminal activity, it might be enough. Chloe swallowed hard. He'll do it. He said he would. David looked grim. If he's still alive. They returned to the clinic just before sunrise, not through the front, but using the same emergency tunnel David had used years ago. The place was quiet. Too quiet. When they reached room 409, Leonard was gone. The room had been scrubbed, blood wiped away, his chair empty. But a piece of paper had been left on the desk. Chloe picked it up with trembling hands. A handwritten note. I told them everything. I bought you 24 hours. After that, you're on your own. Find Geneva. She's the last one left. She knows where the evidence is. Go to her. Finish this. L. Underneath the note, a single word was scrawled in all caps. Citadel. Rhea scanned the word as Chloe read it aloud. Her eyes widened. That's not a location, she said. It's a code name. A system. I've seen it once before, during a leak in an international asset protection firm. It's a digital vault. A place people store everything when they're planning to vanish. Chloe stepped back. You think Leonard stored the full files in this? Citadel. Rhea nodded slowly. If we get access to it, we'll have all the leverage we need. David asked, where is it? Rhea pulled up her laptop, typing furiously. If Geneva Cross is still active, she's the only one who can access it. Her biometrics, her passphrase. But if Leonard trusted her, and now he's gone. Jonah finished the thought. She might be running scared too. Chloe stared at the folder. Then we find Geneva, she said. And we finish this. Later that night, as Chloe sat alone on the rooftop of the safe house, wind tugging at her jacket, her mother joined her quietly. Katie sat down beside her, silent for a long moment. Then she spoke. When I left, I thought I was saving you from a shadow. But I see now it was more than a shadow. It was a machine. And it's still running. Chloe nodded, watching lights flicker across the Zurich skyline. But not for long. Her mother looked at her with pride and sadness. You became the kind of woman I never thought I was strong enough to raise. Chloe smiled faintly. You gave me everything I needed. And now, we're going to give the world the truth. Katie took her hand. Then let's make sure they hear it. Suddenly, Chloe's phone buzzed. A single message. Unknown number. You're getting too close. Geneva is already dead. Walk away, or you will be next. Chloe read it, and then looked to the sky. She stood, her voice firm. Then we're right where we need to be. And for the first time, she didn't feel like a waitress. She felt like a warrior. And this war was just reaching its final battlefield. It was raining in Prague. The city looked like a dream of old stone and quiet regrets, the streets shining with slick reflections of neon signs and taxi lights. But Chloe wasn't there for the view. She was there because Geneva Cross wasn't dead. Not yet. Despite the anonymous threat, Rhea had traced the origin of the message and discovered the lie. A fabricated obituary file planted on a shadow web database used by intelligence operatives to signal a cleaned asset. But Geneva was still breathing, hiding, and the trail led to Prague. Chloe stood outside an ivy-covered building in a secluded courtyard in Old Town, her hood pulled low, gloves tight on her fingers. Jonas stood beside her, the corners of his eyes scanning every window. Last chance to back out, he said, his voice low. Chloe glanced at him. You know that's not happening. They'd found the location through a series of encrypted bank transfers Geneva had made to a shell company disguised as a historic preservation charity. Rhea cracked the payment logs. The address matched a short-term lease on an upper-floor loft, the kind of place you disappear into. The door creaked as they entered the building, ancient wood echoing under their feet. Upstairs, Chloe knocked once on the apartment door. Then again. No answer. Jonah raised a small device, placed it on the door lock, and waited. A green light blinked. Click. They entered. The apartment was dark. Clean. Almost too clean, like someone had left in a hurry but tried to erase the fact. Geneva? Chloe called softly. Nothing. Then a noise, faint, behind a curtain near the balcony. Jonah stepped forward, gun drawn, just in case. The curtain parted, and Geneva Cross stepped out from the shadows. She hadn't aged the way Chloe expected. Her hair was now silver-streaked and pinned back tightly. Her eyes, cold and calculating, still held that sharp edge of someone who never stopped planning for every possible outcome. "I knew you'd come," Geneva said. Chloe stepped forward, heart pounding. "We need access to Citadel." Geneva tilted her head. "You're not David." "I'm his daughter," Chloe said. "And you helped steal that from me." Geneva nodded slowly, almost respectfully. "I did," she said, "and I'm not proud of it." Jonah stepped between them. "So help us fix it, or we'll go to every agency, every journalist, every courtroom." Geneva raised an eyebrow. "You think you're the only ones who've tried? There are people buried for getting half as close as you are now, and they won't stop." Chloe held her ground. "Then give us what we need. Give us Citadel." Geneva studied her, then walked to a wall safe, opened it with a thumbprint and retinal scan, and pulled out a small black cube, no bigger than a deck of cards. She placed it on the table. "This is it," she said. "Every name, every wire, every conversation." Leonard never trusted the cloud. He built Citadel with a fail-safe, physical authentication, and a biometric key. She held up a ring, a dull silver band that clicked open like a puzzle piece. "Only this," she said, "and his voice print can unlock it." "Then we're stuck," Jonas said. "Leonard's gone." "No," Geneva said quietly. "He left the final key. In a vault. In Zurich. Old bank. Under a different name." She passed Chloe a sealed envelope. Inside, coordinates. A vault number. And a small audio recorder. "I've kept my silence for too long," Geneva said. "But if you expose them, really expose them, you'll need more than data. You'll need Leonard to speak." Chloe looked down at the recorder. "It's his voice." Geneva nodded. "A confession. One he made for you." Chloe swallowed hard. "He knew you'd come." Then Geneva turned away and walked to the balcony. "I'll disappear now," she said softly. "I've done what I can. You'll never see me again." Chloe stepped forward. "Why help now?" Geneva didn't look back. "Because I remembered who I used to be before all this." Then she stepped out onto the fire escape and vanished into the night. Back at the bunker, Chloe, David, Jonah, and Katie gathered around the table. The cube sat in the center. David slid the ring into place. Jonah activated the voice print. A soft chime echoed. "Citadel. Sequence initiated. Welcome, Leonard Whitmore." The screen lit up. Files flooded in. Hundreds, thousands. Names, accounts, offshore holdings, bribery logs, blackmail tapes. It was everything. Ria worked fast, scanning and compiling. "This is enough to bring down half the board," she said. "Maybe more." David leaned forward. "Then we leak it. To every agency. Every journalist. We go global." Chloe shook her head. "Not yet." They looked at her. "We hold it," she said. "Until the board meets. We walk into that room with proof, with witnesses, with Leonard's confession." Katie stared. "You're going to confront them?" Chloe's voice was calm. "They took everything from me. My mom. My father. My name. They've controlled the story too long." Jonah smiled slowly. "Let's write the ending." David nodded. And then Chloe hit play on the audio file. Leonard's voice filled the room. "If you're hearing this, then it means I've finally done something right. Chloe, I wronged you before you were even born. And Katie, I broke the best thing that ever happened to my brother. But this truth, this confession, it's my last deal. Let the world judge me, but let you be free." Chloe closed her eyes. No more running. No more hiding. The final chapter was coming. And this time, they would control the ending. The Whitmore board convened once a year in a sealed room high above Manhattan, floors above the skyline, in a tower whose windows were designed to reflect sunlight but not secrets. That morning, the city moved as usual. But inside the tower, everything was about to shift. Chloe stood in the elevator wearing a tailored black blazer, hair pulled back, her mother's locket visible against her blouse. David stood beside her in a charcoal suit, no tie. Jonah was already inside, posing as an advisor to the Whitmore family restoration team, a vague title that meant exactly what they wanted it to mean. Katie stayed back at the safe house with Ria. The risks were too high for her now. As the elevator climbed, Chloe's pulse thudded in her ears. She held a slim, leather case in one hand. Inside it, the cube. Citadel. The digital detonator they were about to drop on the empire that had nearly swallowed her life. "You sure about this?" David asked, voice low. Chloe looked at her reflection in the elevator's mirrored walls. "I was born for this moment," she said. The elevator chimed. The doors opened. A long boardroom stretched ahead, all glass and steel and power. 12 people sat around the oval table, most older men, a few women, all in suits worth more than Chloe's apartment lease. Their faces were carefully blank, trained by years of diplomacy, business, and destruction behind closed doors. At the head of the table sat the acting CEO, Walter Drennan, a board member who had once shaken Chloe's hand as a child when David brought her to a charity event, back before he even knew who she truly was. Now, he looked at her with a smile that didn't touch his eyes. "Ms. Bennett," he said, "to what do we owe this surprise?" Chloe stepped forward. "This isn't a visit. It's a reckoning." A ripple of discomfort passed through the board. David took his place beside her, saying nothing. Jonah stood near the wall, watching every move. Chloe opened the case and placed the Citadel cube on the table. "This," she said, "is a digital vault created by Leonard Whitmore. It contains irrefutable evidence of internal sabotage, offshore laundering, contract tampering, bribery, and illegal surveillance operations run out of this very boardroom." Drennan chuckled softly, leaning back in his chair. "And what exactly do you expect us to do with that?" he asked. "Listen," Chloe said. She activated the file. Leonard's voice filled the room again, deeper through the board's sound system, like a ghost testifying from the grave. "This is Leonard Whitmore. I was complicit in orchestrating the removal of Katie Bennett from David Whitmore's life. I assisted in covering up the existence of his daughter, Chloe, for the benefit of board interests and corporate leverage." One of the women on the board, Patricia Klein, shifted in her seat. The members of the board, including Walter Drennan, Patricia Klein, Edward Stokes, and Ian Briggs, knowingly signed off on payments made to third-party agents used to suppress, surveil, and neutralize threats to the company's image. This included, but was not limited to, orchestrating cover-ups, issuing death threats, and funding mercenary operations. The room fell into stunned silence. Jonah passed printed copies of the files to each member, page after page. Patricia Klein stood, furious. "This is hearsay. Fabrication. You expect us to believe a dying man's audio file." David stepped forward. "That's not all." He tapped a button on his tablet. A secure video feed began to play on the screen behind him. Geneva Cross, clear as day, recorded the night she handed them Citadel. "I was the inside contact. I helped hide Katie Bennett. I relayed information from Leonard to Drennan and the others. I was paid to make her disappear, but I won't hide anymore." Drennan slammed his fist on the table. "This is a coup." "No," Chloe said. "This is justice." Jonah passed a final folder to the board. It contained a list of signatures, whistleblowers, mid-level executives, former legal advisors who'd signed statements prepared by Ria's legal team. All in less than 24 hours. David stared at Drennan. "You're done. Resign. All of you. Or the Citadel files go to Interpol, the FBI, the SEC, and the New York Times." No one spoke for a long time. Then, finally, Drennan stood. "You don't know what you've started," he said. "There are people above this board. People you can't even name." Chloe looked at him without flinching. "Then we'll name them next." That evening, the press conference aired live on every major network. David Whitmore stepped forward first, announcing the board's resignation and a full federal investigation into Whitmore Industries' corporate practices. Then, the cameras turned to Chloe. She stood at the podium, the New York skyline glowing behind her, and spoke into the microphone. "My name is Chloe Bennett. For most of my life, I was a waitress, a student, and a daughter who thought her father didn't want her. Today, I'm the daughter of David Whitmore and Katie Bennett, and I'm here to say that truth doesn't hide forever. No matter how deep you bury it, no matter how powerful you are." People across the country watched, stunned, inspired, and moved. Jonah watched from the wings, pride in his eyes. Katie watched from backstage, tears in hers. And somewhere in a private airport terminal in Zurich, a man in a black suit lowered his phone as he watched the speech end. He turned to his companion, a clean-cut woman with a sharp smile. "She's more dangerous than we thought." The woman nodded. "Should we take care of it?" The man shook his head. "No, not yet." He leaned back in his chair. "She just stepped into the world she thought she destroyed." And as the plane lifted into the clouds, Chloe's image on the screen faded into black. Because the game wasn't over. Not yet. And the final player hadn't made their move. It was 6 weeks later when the final piece fell into place. The city was still buzzing about Chloe Bennett, the waitress turned whistleblower, the daughter who'd unmasked one of the most powerful corporate cabals in the country. Headlines called her everything from America's corporate hero to the girl who shook Wall Street. But inside Chloe's heart, things were quieter and heavier, because though they'd taken down the board, the shadow above it still lingered. It started with a letter. No return address. No postage stamp. Just left in a mailbox outside Chloe's temporary office. Inside it was a single page, handwritten, on expensive cream paper. You may have exposed the rot, but you haven't touched the roots. The roots run deeper. You were never the only secret. The bloodline is larger than you know, and someone else wants to claim it. Below it, a drawing. Not a threat. Not a logo. A family crest. 2 lions. A crown. A single word beneath, Whitmore. Chloe read it again and again. Then she showed it to David. He went pale. I haven't seen this crest in decades, he whispered. It predates the company. It's from our bloodline, the original Whitmore legacy. My grandfather's private symbol. I thought it died with him. Chloe looked him in the eyes. You didn't start this empire. Someone else did. And someone still thinks it belongs to them. Jonas stepped in from the hallway, holding a phone. You need to see this, he said, breathless. He played a grainy video that had just surfaced online, posted anonymously. It showed a man standing on the balcony of a yacht. Silver hair, trimmed beard, expensive coat. Leonard Whitmore. Not dead. Smiling. Behind him, reporters shouted questions, but he raised a single hand and spoke calmly. There's a difference between a fall and a move. I'm not gone. I'm preparing. David stared, stunned. He planned this, he muttered. Jonah nodded. He used Geneva to lure us to the clinic. He staged the confession. Bought time. Burned the board. But he's still playing. Katie, watching from the couch, looked sick. He let you win just enough, she said, to make you think it was over. Chloe stared at the screen. The video panned over Leonard's shoulder and showed the woman beside him, the one who had helped him escape, the one in the sharp suit, whose smile had no warmth. Geneva Cross. Chloe's knees went weak. She betrayed us. Jonah nodded grimly. She gave us Citadel to burn the weak ones. The real empire? She's still building it. With Leonard. From the shadows. David clenched his jaw. They don't want the company anymore. They want something bigger. The name, Chloe whispered. The legacy. Jonah tapped a key on the laptop and pulled up a map. 12 red dots. Europe, South America, Africa, Asia. Each one linked to a new shell company, all named WHD Industries. What does that stand for? Katie asked. Chloe answered, her voice steady. Whitmore Holdings tomorrow. They weren't hiding anymore. They were expanding. And Leonard had used her, Chloe, to cut the last thread holding him back. By destroying the old board, she'd unintentionally cleared his path. But this time, she was ready. The following week, Chloe held her final press conference. She announced the creation of a new foundation, the Bennett Initiative, named for her mother. Its mission, to expose corporate corruption in global development, to defend whistleblowers, and to rebuild broken legacies through truth, not blood. The media cheered. The public applauded. But Chloe wasn't smiling. She wasn't done. She wasn't fooled. Later that night, alone in her apartment, Chloe sat at her desk with a blank notebook open before her. She clicked her pen once, twice. Then she wrote 3 words on the first page. He's still out there. Then she turned the page and wrote, So am I. Behind her, the wind blew gently through an open window. Across the world, in a tower lit by gold and secrets, Leonard Whitmore stood with a glass of wine in his hand. Geneva crossed the room to join him. He'll come for her again, she said. Leonard smiled faintly. No, he replied. She'll come for us. And in a world built on power, shadows, and family names, a girl who once cleared tables was now rewriting the rules. One secret at a time.